Most people think the scariest sound in the world is a gunshot or a scream. They're wrong. The scariest sound is silence, especially when that silence is coming from the house where your mother lives. A mother who has been blind for 10 years and usually has the radio playing 24/7. I stood on the front porch, my duffel bag heavy in my hand. I had just flown in from a 9-month deployment. I didn't tell her I was coming. I wanted it to be a surprise. I wanted to see her face light up when she heard my voice. But the front door was slightly open, and the radio was off. "Mom," I called out. No answer. I pushed the door open. The smell hit me instantly. It wasn't the smell of vanilla candles or pot roast. It was the metallic, coppery smell of blood. Hit like, subscribe for more betrayal stories, and comment your city or country. I dropped my bag. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. I moved into the living room, my combat boots heavy on the hardwood floor. The place was destroyed. Lamps shattered. Tables overturned. It looked like a tornado had touched down inside the living room. Then I saw her. My mother, Eliza, was curled up in the corner of the room near the fireplace. She wasn't moving. Her white hair was matted with dark red blood. Her face, I couldn't even recognize her face. It was swollen, purple, and broken. "Mom," I screamed, rushing to her side. "Don't bother, soldier boy. She's out cold." The voice came from the sofa. I spun around. Dominic, her ex-husband, the man she had divorced 3 years ago, the man who swore he would never come back. He was sitting on her favorite recliner, his feet up on the coffee table, holding a cold beer. He wasn't panting. He wasn't sweating. He was smiling. "She's a tough old bird," Dominic said, taking a casual sip of the beer. "Took her about 2 hours to stop screaming. Finally went quiet about 20 minutes ago." My vision turned red. A pure, hot rage flooded my veins. I had killed men in war zones for less than this. I had seen evil overseas, but I never expected to find the devil sitting in my mother's living room in Ohio. "You touched her," I whispered. My voice didn't sound like mine. It sounded like a growl. "She wouldn't give me the code to the safe." "Hunter," Dominic shrugged. I told her, "Eliza, don't make me do this." "But you know your mother. Stubborn. Blind and stubborn." I took a step toward him. My hands curled into fists. I knew exactly how to end him. A strike to the throat. A shatter to the knee. I could snap his neck before he even stood up. Dominic saw the look in my eyes. He set the beer down, his hand drifting to his waistband where the handle of a pistol poked out. "Go ahead," he taunted. "Try it. But look at her, Hunter. She's bubbling. She can't breathe." I looked back down at my mom. A horrible, wet gurgling sound was coming from her throat. She was choking on her own blood. I had a choice. I could kill him right now and watch him die, or I could save her. I couldn't do both. Not in time. I dropped to my knees beside her. "I've got you, Mom. I'm here." Dominic laughed. He stood up, grabbed his jacket, and walked toward the back door. "Smart choice, kid. Get her to a hospital. She looks like she's about to expire." He paused at the door, looking back at the carnage he had caused. "Tell her I'll be back for the money. If she survives." Then he walked out. I didn't chase him. I couldn't. I scooped my mother up in my arms. She felt so small, so broken. I ran to my truck, placed her in the passenger seat, and drove like a maniac toward the hospital. "Stay with me, Eliza. Stay with me," I yelled, gripping her hand. She didn't squeeze back. At the hospital, the doctors swarmed the truck. They put her on a gurney and wheeled her away. I stood in the waiting room, covered in my mother's blood, shaking with adrenaline. Hours passed. Finally, a doctor came out. He looked grim. "Hunter, is she alive?" I asked. "She is in a coma," the doctor said quietly. "The swelling in her brain is severe. And, Hunter, the damage to her face. If she wakes up, she will likely never look the same again." I sat down on the plastic chair and buried my face in my hands. I had let him walk away. I had let that monster walk out the door. But as I sat there, wiping the blood from my knuckles, I made a promise. Dominic thought he had won because I didn't fight back today. He thought I was weak. He forgot one thing. In the army, we don't just fight. We planned, and when I was done with him, he would wish I had just killed him in that living room. I sat in that hospital waiting room for 6 hours. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, a sickening hum that drilled into my skull. Every time a nurse walked by, I flinched, expecting bad news. But the only person who eventually approached me wasn't a doctor. It was a police officer. Officer Miller looked too young to be handling a case this brutal. He held a notepad in one hand and a cup of lukewarm coffee in the other. He didn't look angry. He looked tired. "Mr. Hunter?" he asked. "Where is he?" I stood up, ignoring the stiffness in my legs. "Did you pick him up? Is Dominic in a cell?" Miller sighed and motioned for me to sit back down. That was my first clue that justice wasn't coming today. "We brought Dominic in for questioning," Miller said slowly, choosing his words carefully. He had a different version of events." "Different version?" I laughed, a harsh, dry sound. "My mother is in a coma. Her face is shattered." "What version explains that?" "He claims self-defense," Miller said. "He says he went over there to collect some old belongings. He claims Eliza attacked him with a kitchen knife. He says he pushed her, and she fell." I felt the blood drain from my face. "She's blind. She can't see to attack anyone. And she didn't just fall. He beat her for 3 hours. We didn't find a knife on her," Miller admitted. "But we found one on the floor with her fingerprints on it. Dominic says she was swinging it wild. And without any cameras inside the house. And with your mother unable to speak." He trailed off. I knew what he was saying. He said, she said. And right now, she couldn't say anything. "So he walks?" I asked, my voice dangerously low. "He's been released pending further investigation," Miller said, avoiding my eyes. "But I'd advise you to stay away from him. He's already filed a restraining order against you. Claims you threatened to kill him." I didn't say another word. I just walked out of the hospital. The cool night air hit my face, but it didn't cool down the fire in my chest. The law wasn't broken. It was just blind. Just like my mother. I got into my truck and drove back to the house. The crime scene tape was gone. The police had taken their photos and left. Now, it was just me and the bloodstains. I walked inside. The house was dead silent. I needed to clean this up. I couldn't let Mom come home to this. If she ever came home. I started in the living room, picking up shattered glass, righting the overturned chairs. I scrubbed the carpet for an hour, the smell of bleach burning my nose. As I moved the coffee table back to its spot, my foot kicked something under the sofa. It skittered across the floor. I bent down and picked it up. It was Mom's digital voice recorder. She used it for everything: grocery lists, reminders, thoughts. Because she couldn't write things down, this was her memory. My thumb hovered over the play button. Had it been recording? I pressed it. Static. Then, a door opening. "Hello, Eliza." Dominic's voice. Clear as day. "Dominic? How did you get in?" I changed the locks. Mom's voice was shaking. "Oh, I had a little help." "Didn't I, sweetie?" My heart stopped. There was a third person in the room. "Just get the code, Dom. Hurry up. I don't want to be here when the soldier boy comes home." The voice on the tape was female. It was familiar. It was family. My blood ran cold. I knew that voice. I had spent Christmases with that voice. I had bought birthday presents for the owner of that voice. It was Morgan, my mother's sister, my aunt. The woman who was supposed to protect her had opened the door for the monster. I stood in the center of the wrecked living room, the digital recorder feeling like a live grenade in my hand. The silence of the house was deafening, but inside my head, the audio was screaming. I rewound it. I had to be sure. I had to be absolutely certain before I did what I was about to do. I pressed play again. "Just get the code, Dom. Hurry up. I don't want to be here when the soldier boy comes home." Morgan. There was no mistaking that nasal, impatient tone. My Aunt Morgan. The woman who had sat by my mother's hospital bed just 2 years ago when the diabetes took the last of her sight. The woman who came over every Sunday for tea. She hadn't just unlocked the door. She had unlocked the gates of hell and invited the devil in for a drink. I sat down on the floor, surrounded by the smell of bleach and dried violence, and I listened. I forced myself to listen to the whole thing. It was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Harder than ranger school, harder than any firefight in the desert. The recording was 3 hours and 12 minutes long. The first 20 minutes were just talking. Dominic demanding the combination to the wall safe hidden behind the pantry. Mom refusing. "It's for Hunter," Mom said on the tape, her voice defiant. "That money is his inheritance. You gambled yours away. He doesn't need it," Morgan chimed in. "The army feeds him. We need it, Eliza. Don't be selfish." Selfish. The woman protecting her son's future was being called selfish by the sister who was robbing her. Then, at the 22-minute mark, the first slap happened. It sounded like a wet crack against a melon. I flinched as if I'd been hit myself. "Tell me the code," Dominic roared. No. Another hit. This one heavier. A thud. A chair scraping. I listened to my mother scream. I listened to her beg Morgan to help her. "Morgan, please. He's hurting me. Stop him." And I heard Morgan's response. It was cold. Detached. "Just give him the numbers, Eliza, and he'll stop. You're doing this to yourself." I paused the tape. I couldn't breathe. The rage was different now. It wasn't the hot, explosive fire I felt for Dominic. This was colder. This was ice. Dominic was a monster. I knew that. But Morgan? She was family. She was blood. And she had watched. She had stood there, likely checking her watch, while a man beat her blind sister into a coma. I checked the timestamp on the recording. It ended abruptly when the batteries likely died or the device was kicked under the couch. I stood up. I didn't go back to the hospital. Not yet. I had a stop to make first. I drove to Morgan's house. It was a nice little suburban place about 20 minutes away. The lawn was perfectly manicured. There was a wreath on the door that said, "Welcome." The irony made me want to vomit. I didn't kick the door down. I didn't scream. That's what an amateur would do. That's what a man losing control would do. I was a soldier. I was entering enemy territory, and the element of surprise was my only weapon. I knocked. 3 solid, polite raps. Morgan opened the door. She was wearing a bathrobe, holding a glass of wine. Her face went pale when she saw me. She tried to hide it with a fake smile, but I saw the twitch in her eye. "Fear. Hunter," she exclaimed, her voice too high, too shrill. "Oh my God, I heard about Eliza. I was just getting ready to go to the hospital. It's terrible. Do they know who did it?" The lie rolled off her tongue like poison. "Can I come in, Aunt Morgan?" I asked. My voice was calm, conversational. Of course. She stepped back, ushering me into her foyer. I walked in and closed the door behind me. I locked the deadbolt. The click echoed loudly in the hallway. Morgan glanced at the lock, then back at me, her smile faltering. Is everything okay, Hunter?" "I was just at the house," I said, walking past her into the kitchen. I picked up an apple from the fruit bowl, turning it over in my hand, cleaning up the blood. There was a lot of it. "Oh, God." Morgan shuddered, taking a sip of her wine. "I can't imagine. Who would do something like that to a helpless woman?" "That's the thing," I said, turning to face her. "The police don't have any evidence. Dominic says it was self-defense." Morgan let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. Relief. She was relieved there was no evidence. "Well, Dominic is a liar. But if there's no proof..." "But I found something," I interrupted. Morgan froze. The wine glass stopped halfway to her mouth. "Found what?" I pulled the black digital recorder from my pocket. I set it gently on her granite countertop. "Mom was recording," I said softly. Morgan stared at the device. Her face went from pale to gray. She looked like she was going to faint. "I haven't given it to the police yet," I lied. "I wanted to listen to it first. It's hard to hear, Morgan. 3 hours. But the weirdest thing," I leaned in closer, invading her personal space, "is that I heard a second voice. A woman." Morgan took a stumbling step back, hitting the refrigerator. "Hunter, She sounded just like you." I whispered. "No," she stammered, tears forming in her eyes. Not tears of sadness, but tears of pure terror. "Hunter, please. You don't understand. He made me. He threatened me." "Did he?" I asked. Because on the tape, you sounded pretty annoyed. You told her she was doing it to herself. You told her to stop being selfish. Morgan dropped her wine glass. It shattered on the floor, red wine splashing over her white slippers like blood. She slid down the fridge, sobbing. He promised me 10 grand. I needed the money, Hunter. I have debts. I didn't think he'd hurt her that bad. I just thought he'd scare her. You sold your sister for $10,000, I said, my voice flat. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. She was blubbering now, reaching for my leg. I stepped back, disgusted. Get up. She looked up at me, shaking. Are you going to kill me? No, I said. That would be too easy. And I need you. Need me? Dominic thinks he got away with it, I said. He thinks the police can't touch him. And right now, he's right. But you are still his partner. He thinks you're on his side. I crouched down so I was eye level with her. You are going to be my eyes and ears, Morgan. You are going to tell me everything he does. Every move he makes. When he breathes, I want to know. When he sleeps, I want to know. And if I don't, she whispered. Then I take this tape to the police, I said. And you go to prison for conspiracy to commit attempted murder. You'll die in a cell, Morgan. And everyone in this town will know what you did. She nodded frantically. Okay. I'll do anything. Good. I stood up and pocketed the recorder. Start now. Where is he? She swallowed hard, wiping her nose. He's at the Lucky 7 motel on the edge of town. He's celebrating. Celebrating. He found the spare key, she whispered. He didn't get the safe open, but he took her jewelry box. He's selling it off piece by piece. My jaw tightened. Mom's jewelry. Her grandmother's ring. The necklace Dad gave her before he died. Dominic was pawning our family history to buy cheap beer and scratch off tickets. Stay here, I commanded. If you call him, if you warn him, I will know. I turned to leave, but stopped at the door. One more thing, Morgan. Yes. If my mother dies, I said without looking back, the deal is off. I walked out into the night. I had my intel. I knew where the target was. But I wasn't going to the motel to fight him. Not yet. That was too simple. Dominic liked to play games. He liked to create fear. Fine. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number I hadn't called in 6 months. It rang twice before a gruff voice answered. Hunter? I thought you were in Germany. I'm home, Ryder, I said. And I need a favor. Bring the van. And bring the gear. We have a target. Ryder didn't ask questions. He didn't ask why. He just asked, how far out? 20 mics. I'm rolling. I hung up. The police had their laws. I had my own. Dominic wanted a war. He just declared one on the United States Army. And he had no idea what was coming for him. Ryder arrived at 0300 hours. His black van rolled silently into my driveway, headlights off, just like we used to do in Kandahar. Ryder was a mountain of a man, 6'4", beard like steel wool, and hands that could crush a brick. He stepped out, took one look at my face, and didn't say a word. He just opened the back of the van. It wasn't full of plumbing tools. It was full of high-grade surveillance tech. What's the op? Ryder asked, tossing me a directional microphone. Domestic target, I said, my voice void of emotion. Subject is Dominic Vance. Currently at the Lucky 7 motel. He assaulted a civilian. Put her in a coma. Ryder paused. He knew who the civilian was without me saying it. He knew Eliza. She used to send us cookies during deployment. We going lethal? Ryder asked, racking the slide on a sidearm he had tucked in his belt. Not yet, I said. He wants to play the no evidence game. So we're going to give him evidence. We're going to document every breath he takes. And then we're going to destroy him. We spent the rest of the night setting up. We treated my mother's house like a forward operating base, FOB. We installed hidden cameras in the living room, kitchen, and outside perimeter, just in case he came back. Then we drove to the Lucky 7 motel. The Lucky 7 was a dive. The kind of place where the neon sign flickered and the sheets hadn't been changed since the Reagan administration. We parked the van across the street in an abandoned lot. We had a direct line of sight to room 104. I pulled up the thermal imaging on the monitor. 2 heat signatures in the room. One was sitting in a chair. The other was moving around, likely pacing. "He's got company," Ryder muttered, adjusting the gain on the long-range microphone. I put on the headset. The audio crackled, then cleared. "Sold that necklace for $500. Can you believe it? $500 for a piece of junk." Dominic's voice. My stomach turned. That piece of junk was my grandmother's locket. "And what about the son?" Another voice. "Male. Rough. One of his drinking buddies. You said he was special forces or something. You worried." Dominic laughed. "Hunter? Please. He's a Boy Scout. He came to the house, saw me, and didn't do a thing. He's too scared of going to jail. He won't touch me." My hand tightened on the console. Ryder glanced at me. "He's wrong about that," Ryder said softly. "So what's the plan, Dom?" the buddy asked. "The plan," Dominic said, the sound of a bottle opening echoing in my ears, "is to wait. The old lady dies, the house goes to probate. I'm still the executor of the estate on some old paperwork she forgot to change. I get the house. I get the life insurance. And that soldier boy gets nothing." I ripped the headset off. "He's planning to steal the house." "He's confident," Ryder noted. "Too confident. He thinks he's untouchable," I said. "We need to shake him. We need to make him paranoid." "Psychological warfare?" Ryder grinned. It was a scary grin. "I have the directional speakers." "Do it." We deployed a directional speaker, a device that shoots a focused beam of sound that only the target can hear. It's used for crowd control, but tonight, it was for ghost stories. I typed a message into the text-to-speech program. I didn't use a robotic voice. I used a recording I had on my phone, a snippet of my mother's voice from an old voicemail. "Dominic." We aimed the beam at the thin window of room 104. Inside the room, Dominic stopped talking. We watched on the thermal scope as he stood up and looked around. "What was that?" Dominic asked. "What was what?" his buddy replied. I heard her." "Heard who?" "Eliza." His buddy laughed. "You're drunk, Dom. She's in a coma." I hit the button again. "Why did you do it, Dominic?" This time, Dominic jumped. He ran to the door and yanked it open, looking out into the parking lot. There was no one there. Just the empty street and our black van hidden in the shadows, invisible to him. He slammed the door shut. We could hear his breathing getting faster over the microphone. "I'm telling you, I heard her," Dominic shouted. "Sit down, man. You're losing it," his buddy said. "Phase 1 complete," I whispered to Ryder. "He's jumpy." "What's phase 2? "Phase 2 is financial destruction," I said. "He's waiting for the life insurance? Let's make sure he doesn't have a penny to his name by the time that check never arrives." I pulled out my laptop. I wasn't a hacker, but Ryder knew a guy in Intel who owed him a favor. We didn't need to hack the bank. We just needed to report his car stolen. We needed to flag his credit cards for fraud. We needed to cancel his phone service. We spent the next 3 hours systematically dismantling his life from a laptop. At 0600, Dominic tried to order a pizza. Card declined. At 0700, he tried to make a call. Service suspended. At 0800, a tow truck pulled into the motel lot. His beat-up Ford truck was hooked up and dragged away while he screamed at the driver in his underwear. "He's unraveling," Ryder observed, eating a protein bar. "Not enough?" I said, staring at the screen. "I want him desperate. I want him to feel like the walls are closing in." Just then, my phone buzzed. It was the hospital. My heart stopped. I stared at the screen. "Unknown number." "Answer it," Ryder said gently. I picked it up. "Hello, Mr. Hunter?" It was the doctor. "You need to come in. Now." "Is she?" I couldn't finish the sentence. "She's awake," the doctor said. "But she's asking for you. And she's saying things. Things about a blue file. A blue file. She's very agitated, Hunter. She says Dominic isn't just a gambler. She says he's working for someone. Someone dangerous." I looked at Ryder. The mission just changed. This wasn't just domestic abuse anymore. "We're moving," I told Ryder. "Pack it up." "Where to?" "The hospital. Mom's awake. And apparently, Dominic isn't the only monster we have to worry about." We peeled out of the lot. leaving Dominic screaming at an empty parking space where his truck used to be. He was having a bad morning. It was about to get a lot worse. The hospital room was dim, the only light coming from the monitors that beeped in a steady, rhythmic cadence. Beep, beep, beep. It was the sound of life, but it hung by a thread. I stood in the doorway, afraid to enter. My mother, Eliza, looked small in the hospital bed. Her face was bandaged heavily, only her mouth and her right ear visible. Tubes snaked out of her arms like translucent vines. "Mom," I whispered. Her head turned slightly on the pillow. "Hunter." Her voice was raspy, dry as sandpaper. I rushed to her side, taking her hand. It felt cold. "I'm here, Mom. I'm right here." Is he gone?" she asked, her grip surprisingly strong for someone so weak. "He's not here," I said. "And he's never coming near you again. Ryder and I are handling it." She let out a shuddering breath. You have to find the file, Hunter." "The blue file?" I asked. "The doctor mentioned it." "What is it, Mom?" She tried to sit up, but grimaced in pain and sank back down. "Dominic. He wasn't just gambling at the casino. He was moving money, dirty money, for the syndicate." "The syndicate?" My blood ran cold. That wasn't just a local gang. That was organized crime. Heavy hitters. The kind of people who made people disappear in barrels of acid. "He used my name," she wheezed. "He opened accounts in my name because I was blind, because I couldn't see the papers he was putting in front of me to sign. He's laundering millions through a fake charity for veterans." The rage I felt before was nothing compared to this. A charity for veterans? He was using the reputation of men and women who died for this country to wash drug money. "I found out," she continued, tears soaking into her bandages. "I recorded him on the phone. That's why he came back, Hunter. He didn't want the safe for money. He wanted the blue file. It has the account numbers, the names, everything." "Where is it?" I asked urgently. "Did he get it?" "No," she whispered. "He tore the house apart, but he couldn't find it. Because I didn't hide it in the safe." She pulled me closer. "It's in the old dog house. Under the floorboards. Buster's house. Buster was our golden retriever who died 5 years ago. His doghouse was still in the backyard, rotting away in the weeds. Dominic would never look there. "I'll get it," I promised. "I'll get it, and I'll give it to the feds." "Be careful," she begged. "Dominic is scared, Hunter. But the people he works for? They aren't scared of anything." "They haven't met me yet," I said, kissing her forehead. I left the room and found Ryder in the hallway. He was checking his phone. "Status?" I asked. "Dominic is on the move," Ryder said. "He rented a car, some cheap compact. He's heading back to your mom's house." "He's going back to search again," I said. "He knows the police released him, so he thinks he has time." "We beat him there?" Ryder asked. "We have to. The evidence is in the backyard." We sprinted to the van. The drive back to the house was a blur of speed. Ryder drove like he was evading an IED on a dirt road, swerving through traffic. We screeched into the driveway just as a silver sedan pulled up across the street. It was Dominic. He saw us. He saw the black van and me jumping out. He didn't run. He got out of the car, holding a tire iron. He looked disheveled, sweaty, and desperate. "Get off my property," Dominic screamed, waving the iron. "It's not your property, Dom," I yelled back, walking toward him. "And you're done. We know about the laundering. We know about the charity." Dominic froze. The color drained from his face. "You don't know anything. I know the syndicate isn't going to be happy when they find out you beat up a blind woman and drew heat on their operation," I said, closing the distance. Dominic's eyes darted around. He was trapped. If he attacked me, I'd drop him. If he ran, the syndicate would find him. "I need that file," he shrieked, lunging at me. He swung the tire iron. It was a clumsy, desperate swing. I didn't even have to block it. I just stepped to the side. The iron whooshed past my ear. I grabbed his wrist, twisted it, and heard the satisfying pop of cartilage. "Ah!" Dominic dropped the iron, clutching his wrist. I swept his leg, and he hit the pavement hard. I put my boot on his chest. "Where is it?" he gasped. "Where did the old witch hide it?" "Ryder," I said calmly. "Watch him." Ryder stepped up, his hand resting on his pistol. With pleasure, I ran to the backyard. The tall grass whipped at my legs. I found the old dog house. It was falling apart, the wood gray and splintered. I kicked the roof off. I ripped up the rotting floorboards. There, wrapped in 3 layers of Ziploc bags, was a blue folder. I grabbed it. This was it, the nail in his coffin. But as I stood up, I heard a sound that froze my blood. A gunshot. William. It came from the front yard. "Ryder!" I screamed. I sprinted back around the house, the folder clutched to my chest. Ryder was standing behind the van, gun drawn. But Dominic was gone. He had a backup piece. Ryder yelled, "Ankle holster." He took a shot at me and ran into the woods. "Did you hit him?" "No, I didn't have a clear line of fire. There were kids on the sidewalk." I looked toward the dense woods behind our subdivision. Dominic was in there, and he was armed, and he was desperate. "He's going to the old mill," I said. "That's where he used to meet his contacts." "We hunt him down," Ryder said, his face hard. "No," I said, looking at the blue folder. "We don't just hunt him. We end him. But first," I pulled out my phone. "I'm calling the one person who can make sure he never leaves this town." "The cops." "No," I said, dialing a number. "Morgan." Ryder looked confused. "The traitor." "She's not a traitor anymore," I said, watching the woods. "Now she's the bait." The woods behind my mother's house were thick with oak and pine, a tangle of shadows that stretched for miles. Dominic knew these woods. He used to hunt deer back here when he was pretending to be the perfect husband. Now he was the prey. "Morgan," I said into the phone, my eyes scanning the tree line. "Put the phone on speaker. Don't say a word until I tell you." "Hunter? What's happening?" Morgan's voice was trembling. "I saw on the news there was a shooting." "Dominic fired at us," I said. "He's in the wind, and he's coming for you." "Me? Why me?" She sounded like she was hyperventilating. "Because he thinks you double-crossed him." I lied. It was a calculated risk. I needed her terrified. I needed her to do exactly what I said. "He thinks you told me about the blue file. He's coming to silence the only other witness." "Oh God. Oh God, Hunter, help me." "I can help you," I said calmly. "But you have to do exactly what I say. He's going to call you. He has no car, no money, and he's hurt. He needs a ride. When he calls, you answer." I can't talk to him." "You will answer," I commanded. "And you will tell him to meet you at the old mill. Tell him you have cash. Tell him you can get him out of town." "The old mill? That place is falling down." "Exactly. It's isolated. It's perfect. Do it, Morgan, or I leave you to him." I hung up. Ryder was already prepping the gear. He handed me a tactical vest. "You trust her?" Ryder asked, checking the magazine of his pistol. "I trust her fear," I replied, strapping on the vest. "Fear makes people predictable." We moved into the woods. We didn't run. We moved with purpose. Silent. Methodical. The leaves under our boots were damp, muffling our steps. We tracked Dominic's trail easily. Broken twigs, boot prints in the mud. He was moving fast, panic making him careless. 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Morgan. He called. I told him. "He's heading to the mill. Meeting in 30 minutes. "Got him," I whispered. The old mill was a decaying structure by the river, a relic from the 1950s. Rusted machinery, broken catwalks, and deep shadows. It was a place where teenagers went to drink and where secrets went to die. We arrived 10 minutes before the meet time. We set up in the rafters, high above the main floor. From here, we could see everything. At exactly 1,400 hours, Dominic stumbled in. He looked like a wreck. His nice suit was torn, his shoes muddy. He was clutching his wrist where I had popped the cartilage. He held a snub-nosed revolver in his shaking hand, waving it at the shadows. "Morgan," he screamed. "Morgan, where are you?" His voice echoed off the metal walls. He sounded pathetic, but a pathetic man with a gun is still dangerous. Then, Morgan walked in. She was terrified. I could see her shaking from 50 feet up. She held a small bag. The cash I told her to bring. Dom, she called out, her voice barely a squeak. Dominic spun around, aiming the gun at her. You set me up? You told the soldier boy about the accounts. No, I swear, Morgan sobbed, holding up her hands. I didn't tell him anything. I brought the money, just like you asked. Dominic limped toward her, snatching the bag. He ripped it open. It was full of cut-up newspaper. His face contorted in rage. What is this? Where is the money? Morgan stammered. She looked up toward the rafters, her eyes wide. Dominic saw her look. He looked up. Hunter, he screamed. I dropped from the rafters. I didn't land on him. That's movie stuff. I landed on a platform 10 feet above him. Ryder appeared on the catwalk opposite me. We had him boxed in. It's over, Dom, I said, my voice echoing through the mill. The police are on their way. The blue file is already with the FBI. You lie, Dominic roared. He grabbed Morgan, wrapping his arm around her neck and jamming the gun into her temple. I'll kill her. Back off, or I paint the walls with her brains. Morgan screamed, clawing at his arm. I didn't flinch. Go ahead. Dominic blinked. What? She sold out her own sister for 10 grand. I said coldly. She watched you beat a blind woman and did nothing. You think I care if you pull that trigger? It was a bluff. A massive, dangerous bluff. But I had to make him think he had no leverage. Dominic hesitated. His grip on the gun loosened just a fraction. He was confused. He expected the hero. He got the soldier. You're crazy, Dominic whispered. I'm focused, I said. Let her go, and you walk out of here in handcuffs. Kill her, and you leave in a body bag. Your choice. For a second, the only sound was the rushing river outside and Morgan's whimpering. Then, Dominic smiled. That same sick, arrogant smile from the living room. You know what, Hunter? I think I'll take my chances. He shoved Morgan away violently. She fell hard, hitting her head on a rusted pipe. But Dominic didn't shoot. He turned and ran toward the back exit, the one leading to the river. Ryder, secure Morgan. I yelled. I vaulted over the railing, dropping 10 feet to the concrete floor. I rolled, absorbed the impact, and sprinted after him. He burst out the back door into the blinding sunlight. The river roared below, swollen from recent rains. A narrow, rusted maintenance bridge spanned the water. Dominic was halfway across it. I hit the bridge running. The metal grated under my boots. Stop, I yelled. Dominic spun around. He raised the gun. Bang. The bullet sparked off the railing inches from my hip. I didn't stop. I dove forward, tackling him just as he fired again. The shot went wild into the sky. We hit the metal grating hard. The gun skittered away, falling through a gap in the bridge and splashing into the river below. Now it was just us. No guns. No lawyers. Just flesh and bone. Dominic scrambled up, punching me in the jaw. It hurt, but not as much as seeing my mother in that hospital bed. I took the hit. I tasted blood. And I smiled. My turn, I said. The rusted bridge groaned under our weight, suspended 30 feet above the churning river. Dominic scrambled backward, his eyes darting to where his gun had fallen. It was gone. He was alone with me. Stay back, he screamed, his voice cracking. I have friends. The syndicate will skin you alive. I wiped the blood from my lip. They can try. But right now, Dom, it's just you and me. I didn't rush him. I walked slowly, deliberately. This was psychological. I wanted him to feel every second of fear he had inflicted on my mother. Dominic swung a wild haymaker. It was slow, fueled by panic. I ducked under it easily and drove my fist into his gut. Oof. The air left his lungs in a rush. He doubled over. I could have finished him then. I could have kneed him in the face and ended it. But that was too quick. I grabbed him by the collar of his expensive, ruined suit and shoved him against the railing. The metal creaked ominously. He looked down at the water, terrified. 3 hours, I whispered in his ear. That's how long you hurt her. We've only been dancing for 3 minutes. I let him go. He slumped to the grating, gasping for air. You're crazy, he wheezed. You're a psycho. I'm a son, I corrected. Suddenly, his phone buzzed in his pocket. It was a jarring sound in the tense silence. Dominic instinctively reached for it. He looked at the screen. His eyes went wide. "No," he whispered. "That's impossible." "Answer it," I said, stepping back. "Go ahead." He put the phone to his ear with a trembling hand. "Hello." I watched his face go white, whiter than the hospital sheets. "Eliza," he choked out. "But you're in a coma." I had Ryder trigger the audio file I sent him earlier. It was a recording of Mom from years ago, edited to sound like a live call. "Why did you hurt me, Dominic? I gave you everything." "Stop it," Dominic screamed, throwing the phone at me. "Stop it. She's not real." He was breaking. The lack of sleep, the fear of the syndicate, the physical pain, it was all crashing down on him. He was hallucinating, thinking the woman he tried to kill was haunting him from the grave. "She sees you, Dom," I said softly, stepping closer. "Even without her eyes, she sees what a coward you are." He scrambled to his feet, swinging blindly. "Get away from me." He backed up. He wasn't looking where he was going. He was looking at me, looking at the ghosts in his head. "Careful," I said. He took one more step back. His heel caught on a loose metal grate. His arms pinwheeled. He tried to grab the railing, but his sweaty hands slipped. "Hunter," he screamed. It wasn't a threat anymore. It was a plea. I reached out. I actually reached out to grab him. Not to save him, but to pull him back so he could face justice. I wanted him in a cell, not in a river. My fingertips brushed his jacket. But I missed. Dominic fell. He didn't hit the water. He hit the lower maintenance platform, a concrete slab jutting out from the bridge pylon about 15 feet down. Crack. The sound was sickening. It sounded like a dry branch snapping in a winter forest. Dominic lay there, twisted at an impossible angle. He wasn't moving. I stared down at him. The rage in my chest evaporated, replaced by a cold, hard knot in my stomach. "Ryder," I yelled into my comms. "Subject is down." I repeat, subject is down. I climbed down the maintenance ladder, sliding the last few feet. I landed next to him. Dominic was awake. His eyes were wide, staring up at the sky, filled with confusion. I can't," he gurgled. "I can't feel my legs." I looked at his back. It was bent wrong. I didn't need a medical degree to know what happened. "Don't move," I said, my voice flat. "Help me up," he demanded, trying to sound tough, but fear leaking through. "Hunter, help me up. My legs are asleep." "They're not asleep, Dom," I said, crouching over him. "You broke your back." He started to hyperventilate. No, I have money. I have the blue file. I can pay for the best doctors." "The blue file is gone," I said. "And where you're going, the doctors work for the state." Sirens wailed in the distance. Ryder had called it in. The cavalry was coming. Dominic started to cry. Ugly, sobbing tears. "I don't want to go to jail. Not like this. Please, Hunter. Just push me in. Push me in the river." He was begging for death. He knew what prison would be like for a paralyzed man who hurt a blind woman. He knew he would be prey. I looked at the river. Then I looked at him. "No," I said. "That's too easy. You wanted to take her independence? You wanted to make her helpless? Now you know how it feels." I stood up and walked away as the police cruisers skidded to a halt on the bridge above. Dominic was screaming my name, begging for mercy, begging for death. I gave him neither. The next few hours were a blur of flashing lights, police tape, and questions. They winched Dominic up from the concrete slab on a stretcher. He was strapped down, his head immobilized, screaming about his legs the entire time. I watched from the riverbank, my arms crossed, feeling absolutely nothing. Officer Miller approached me. He looked different this time. Less dismissive. More respectful. "We found the blue file in your van," Miller said. "FBI is already on their way. Turns out Dominic Vance has been on a watch list for 6 months. We just couldn't pin anything on him." "You're welcome," I said dryly. "And the accident?" Miller gestured to the bridge. "He ran," I said simply. "He fell. My friend Ryder and I tried to stop him." Miller looked at me. He knew there was more to it. He knew I had chased him. But he also knew Dominic was a monster who laundered money and beat old women. "Sounds like a tragic accident," Miller nodded, closing his notebook. We picked up your aunt, Morgan, at the mill. She's singing like a bird. She's telling us everything about the setup, the assault, the money. Good, I said. Make sure she gets a cell with a view. I drove back to the hospital. Ryder stayed behind to give his statement. When I walked into Mom's room, she was awake. The swelling had gone down a little, but her face was still a map of bruises. Hunter, she whispered. It's over, Mom, I said, sitting by her bed and taking her hand. He's gone. He's never coming back. Did you kill him? She asked, fear in her voice. She didn't want a murderer for a son. No, I said. He fell. He's paralyzed, Mom. He'll never walk again. She was silent for a long time. She squeezed my hand. Karma, she whispered. It took its time, but it came. And Morgan, she asked, her voice trembling. Arrested, I said. She told them everything. She's going away for a long time. Mom turned her head away, a single tear tracking through the bruising on her cheek. My own sister. I trusted her. I know, I said. But you have me. And you have Ryder. We aren't going anywhere. 1 month later. The trial was quick. With Morgan's testimony, the audio tape, and the blue file, Dominic didn't have a prayer. He attended the trial via video link from the prison hospital. He looked small in his wheelchair. Defeated. He got 20 years for the assault, plus another 15 federal for the money laundering. He would die in that chair, behind bars. Morgan got 5 years in a minimum security facility for her cooperation. Mom didn't go to her sentencing. She said she had already said goodbye to her sister the night of the beating. I was honorably discharged from the Army a week later. Hardship discharge. I needed to be home to take care of Mom. We were sitting on the front porch. The house was fixed up. New furniture, new paint. The smell of bleach was gone, replaced by the smell of vanilla candles. Hunter, Mom asked, sipping her tea. Yeah, Mom. Describe it to me. Describe what? The day? The sky? The trees? I looked out at the yard. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. The oak trees were swaying in a gentle breeze. It's beautiful, Mom, I said. The sun is setting. It's painting everything gold. It's peaceful. She smiled. A real smile this time. I can see it, she said. I can see it better than I ever could. I looked at her, then down at my hands. Hands that knew how to hold a rifle, how to break bones, how to hurt. But now, they were holding a teacup. They were holding my mother's hand. The war was over. The enemy was defeated. But as I sat there, watching the sun dip below the horizon, my phone buzzed. I pulled it out. Unknown number. I frowned. The case was closed. Dominic was locked up. Who could this be? I answered it. Hello. Hunter Vance. A voice said. It wasn't Dominic. It was deep, distorted, calm. Speaking. You caused us a lot of trouble, Mr. Vance. That blue file, that was private property. My blood turned to ice. The syndicate. Dominic was a loose end. The voice continued. We don't mind that you broke him, but you took our money, and we want it back. I gave it to the feds, I said, my hand instinctively reaching for the pistol I now kept tucked in the porch cushion. We know, the voice said. And that's unfortunate, because now you owe us a debt, and we always collect. The line went dead. I looked at Mom. She was still smiling, feeling the warmth of the sun on her face. She didn't hear the call. She didn't know that the war wasn't over. It was just beginning. I put the phone in my pocket and squeezed her hand. Hunter, she asked, is everything okay? I looked out at the street. A black sedan was driving slowly past the house. It didn't stop. It just rolled by, dark windows reflecting the dying sun. Yeah, Mom. I lied, watching the car disappear around the corner. Everything is just fine. I knew what I had to do. Dominic was just the pawn. Now, I had to face the king. I stared at the spot where the black sedan had vanished. My heart rate didn't spike. It steadied. This was the calm I knew. This was the mission mode I had lived in for 6 years. Hunter, you've gone quiet, Mom said, her head tilting toward me. Her hearing had always been sharp, but since the attack, it was like she could hear my thoughts. Just watching a car go by, Mom, I said, keeping my voice light. Mrs. Higgins got a new Buick. That woman shouldn't be driving, Mom chuckled. She's blinder than I am. I laughed with her, but my eyes were scanning the perimeter. The syndicate calling me wasn't a threat, it was a promise. They didn't care about Dominic. They cared about the millions in laundered assets I had handed to the FBI. I needed to secure the house. Again, Mom, I'm going to head inside and check the locks, I said. Getting chilly out here. Okay, sweetie. I helped her inside and settled her in front of the TV with her audio description shows. Then I went to the garage. I opened the heavy tool chest in the corner. Underneath the wrenches and hammers was a false bottom. I lifted it. Inside lay my service pistol, a Sig Sauer P320, and 2 spare magazines. I checked the chamber. Loaded. My phone buzzed again. A text message this time. No number. You have 24 hours. The old warehouse on 5th. Come alone, or the blind woman pays the interest. I stared at the screen. They were threatening her again. Dominic was an amateur, a gambler with a temper. These guys, they were professionals. I couldn't call the police. The police could barely handle a domestic assault. They couldn't handle an international crime syndicate. And I couldn't call the FBI. By the time they processed the paperwork, Mom would be dead. I had to handle this. But not alone. I called Ryder. Yo, he answered on the first ring. We have a situation, I said. The Blue File people. They want a meeting. When? Tonight. 24 hours is a bluff. If I wait, they'll hit the house. I'm taking the fight to them. I'm already loading the truck, Ryder said. Where are we going? The warehouse on 5th. It's their turf. Suicide mission? Not if we knock first. We met up an hour later in the parking lot of a 24-hour diner. Ryder looked grim. He handed me a Kevlar vest. This isn't Dominic with a tire iron, Ryder warned. These guys will have automatic weapons. I know, I said, strapping the vest on. That's why we're not going in through the front door. The warehouse on 5th was a massive brick building, leftovers from the industrial boom. It was dark, silent, but I knew it was full of eyes. We parked 2 blocks away and moved in on foot, sticking to the shadows. We used the alleyways, moving like ghosts. We reached the back of the building. Ryder boosted me up to a fire escape. I climbed silently, peering through a grimy window. Inside, under a single hanging light bulb, sat 3 men. They were wearing suits. They looked bored. And in the corner, tied to a chair, was a familiar face. It was Victor, Dominic's lawyer, the slick guy who had tried to get him off on self-defense charges. He looked terrified. His face was bruised. They're cleaning house, I whispered into my comms. They're tying up loose ends. Victor is next. We going hot? Ryder asked from the ground. Flashbang first, I said. Disorient them. I want answers, not bodies. Not yet. I pulled a flashbang grenade from my belt, a souvenir Ryder had acquired. I cracked the window. The men inside looked up at the sound. I pulled the pin and dropped it. Fire in the hole. I whispered to myself. Bang. The flash was blinding, even through the dirty glass. The sound was a thunderclap. I kicked the window in and dropped to the floor, gun raised. Freeze. I warned. The 3 men were stumbling, blinded, covering their ears. Hands. Let me see your hands. 2 of them dropped to their knees, hands up. But the third one, the big one in the middle, reached into his jacket. I didn't hesitate. I put a round into his shoulder. He screamed and spun around, dropping his weapon. Ryder kicked the back door open and stormed in, sweeping the room. Clear right. Clear left. I yelled. We had them secured in 10 seconds. Zip ties on wrists. I walked over to the man I had shot. He was groaning, clutching his shoulder. Who's the boss? I asked, crouching down. Who called me? The man spat at me. You're dead, soldier. You have no idea who you're messing with. I messed with Dominic, and he's in a wheelchair, I said calmly. I messed with your crew, and you're bleeding on the floor. I think I'm doing okay. I walked over to Victor, the lawyer. I cut the duct tape off his mouth. Please. Victor sobbed. Please don't kill me. I didn't know. I was just his lawyer. Tell me about the syndicate, I said. Who runs it? It's a man named Silas, Victor stammered. He operates out of Chicago. Dominic was just a low-level runner. Silas, I repeated. The name meant nothing to me, but it was a start. He's sending a cleanup crew, Victor cried. They're coming tonight. To your house. To kill the old woman. My heart stopped. What? The call, the text. It was a distraction. Victor yelled. They wanted you here, so the house would be unguarded. They're going to burn it down with her inside to destroy the evidence trail. I looked at Ryder. The color drained from his face. Mom, I whispered. I had left her alone. I thought I was protecting her by coming here, but I had walked right into their trap. We have to go, I screamed, sprinting for the door. Ryder, drive. We hit the truck running. Ryder peeled out, tires smoking. I dialed Mom's number. Ring, ring, ring. Pick up, Mom. Please, pick up. Ring, ring, click. Hello. It wasn't Mom. It was the deep, distorted voice from earlier. Hello, Hunter. We noticed you weren't home, so we let ourselves in. If you touch her, I snarled, gripping the dashboard so hard the plastic cracked. I will burn your world down. She's a nice lady, the voice said. She offered us tea. She thinks we're your friends. Put her on, I demanded. Hunter. Mom's voice. She sounded confused. Hunter, your friends are here. They said you sent them to check the gas line. Mom, I said, my voice shaking. Listen to me very carefully. Do not drink the tea. Do not stand up. Just sit there. What's wrong? I'm coming home, Mom. I'm 5 minutes away. Just stay calm. The line went dead. Faster. I yelled at Ryder. I'm doing 90. Ryder shouted, swerving around a semi-truck. We were 5 minutes away. But 5 minutes is a lifetime when monsters are sitting in your living room. The speedometer hit 110 miles per hour as we tore down the highway. Ryder's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. I checked my weapon again, though I knew it was ready. I wasn't thinking about tactics anymore. I wasn't thinking about rules of engagement. I was thinking about my blind mother sitting in a room with killers, pouring them tea, thinking they were my friends. How far? I asked, staring at the GPS. 2 miles, Ryder gritted out. We'll be there in 90 seconds. We turned into my subdivision. The quiet suburban street looked normal. Kids' bicycles on lawns. Porch lights flickering on. But at the end of the cul-de-sac, my house was dark. Too dark. Kill the lights, I ordered. Ryder cut the headlights. We rolled to a stop 3 houses down. Front or back? Ryder asked. You take the back, I said, opening the door. I'm going through the front. If anyone moves, drop them. I moved across the neighbors' lawns, using the bushes for cover. My heart was hammering against my ribs like a sledgehammer. I reached the front porch. The door was unlocked. I pushed it open slowly. The hinges didn't squeak. I had oiled them myself last week. The house smelled of gas. My stomach dropped. Check the gas line. That wasn't just a lie to get in. It was the method. They were going to blow the house. I moved into the hallway. Shadows danced on the walls. In the living room, by the faint light of the street lamp filtering through the curtains, I saw them. 2 men. One was standing by the fireplace, fiddling with the gas valve. The other was sitting on the sofa next to Mom. He had a lighter in his hand. He was flicking it. Click, click. So, the man on the sofa said, his voice smooth. Hunter is a brave boy, isn't he, Eliza? Yes, Mom said softly. She was sitting rigid, her hands folded in her lap. She knew. She sensed the danger. He's a good son. Too bad he's late, the man said. He raised the lighter. Drop it, I roared, stepping into the doorway, gun raised. The man on the sofa spun around, surprised. He didn't expect me back so soon. Hunter, Mom cried. The man by the fireplace pulled a gun. Bang. I fired first. 1 shot. Clean. He dropped to the floor, clutching his chest. The man on the sofa grabbed Mom. He yanked her up, using her as a human shield. He held the lighter near her face. The smell of gas was overpowering now. 1 spark, and the whole room would ignite. Back off, he screamed. I'll light it. I swear to God. I froze. I couldn't shoot. He was too close to her. If I missed, or if the muzzle flash ignited the gas. Let her go, I said, keeping my gun trained on his head. You're done. Your partner is down. I'm walking out of here, he yelled. Open the door. Hunter, Mom said. Her voice was surprisingly calm. Be quiet, old lady, the man snarled, shaking her. Hunter, she said again. 3 o'clock. I knew what that meant. It was a clock-face direction. To her 3 o'clock. She shifted her weight. She slammed her heel down hard onto the man's instep. He howled in pain. His grip loosened for a split second. Mom threw herself forward, toward her 3 o'clock, away from him. It was all the window I needed. Bang! My bullet caught him right between the eyes. His head snapped back. His fingers slipped off the lighter. It fell. It hit the carpet. The flame was still lit. Whoosh! The gas fumes near the fireplace ignited. A wave of fire rolled across the ceiling. Mom! I dove forward, tackling her, covering her body with mine as the heat wave passed over us. Ryder! Get in here! I screamed. Ryder burst through the back door. Fire! Go! Go! I scooped Mom up in my arms, just like the night I found her beaten. But this time, she was awake. She was clinging to me. We ran. We burst out the front door just as the windows blew out behind us. Boom. The force of the explosion threw us onto the front lawn. Debris rained down, shingles, glass, wood. I rolled over, checking Mom. Are you okay? Are you hit? She was coughing, her face covered in soot, but she nodded. I'm okay. I'm okay. I looked back at the house. It was an inferno. The flames licked the night sky. Everything we owned, the photos, the furniture, the memories, was gone. But the woman in my arms was alive. Sirens wailed in the distance. Louder this time. Fire trucks. Police. Ryder crawled over to us, his face blackened by smoke. You good? We're good, I panted. The syndicate? Ryder asked, looking at the burning house. 2 down inside, I said. But Silas, the head, he's still out there. Then we're not done, Ryder said. I looked at Mom. She was trembling. She had lost her home. She had been beaten, terrorized, and nearly burned alive. But then, she reached out and found my face. Her hands were steady. Hunter, she said. Yeah, Mom. Did you get them? I looked at the burning house, a tomb for the men who tried to hurt her. Yeah, Mom. I got them. She took a deep breath of the smoky air. Good. The fire burned for 4 hours. By the time the sun rose, my childhood home was nothing but a blackened skeleton of timber and ash. The police took their statements, the fire marshals did their investigation, and the coroner's van took away the 2 bodies found in the rubble. Silas, the head of the syndicate, was arrested 3 days later in Chicago. It turns out, the blue file wasn't the only copy. Mom, being the smartest woman I know, had mailed a second copy to a journalist friend in New York weeks before the attack. The story broke national headlines. The entire operation crumbled. But none of that mattered to me as I stood in the park 1 year later. It was a crisp autumn day. The leaves were turning gold and red, falling gently onto the path. I was pushing a wheelchair, but it wasn't Dominic's. It was Mom's. But she wasn't sick. She was just tired from walking. We had been at the physical therapy center all morning. Stop here, Hunter, she said. I locked the brakes. We were overlooking the lake. The water shimmered under the afternoon sun. Describe it, she asked. Blue water, I said. A couple of ducks. A dad teaching his kid how to fish on the pier. She smiled. The scars on her face had faded to thin white lines. They were part of her now, a map of her survival. And Dominic? She asked. She hadn't spoken his name in months. Still in solitary, I said. Ryder's buddy at the prison says he spends his days staring at the wall. He tried to appeal last week. The judge laughed him out of court. And Morgan? She gets out in 3 years on good behavior, I said. But she knows not to come back here. The restraining order is for life. Mom nodded, satisfied. She reached into her purse and pulled out a small, velvet box. Here, she said. What's this? Open it. I opened the box. Inside was a purple heart. My father's medal. I thought it had burned in the fire. How? I stared at it, choked up. Ryder, she smiled. He ran back in. Before the roof collapsed, he said, the soldier needs his medal. I closed my hand around the cold metal. Ryder, that crazy, loyal son of a gun. You saved me, Hunter, Mom said, turning her head toward me. You came back from your war to fight mine. I'd do it again, I said, kissing her forehead. Every single time. She patted my hand. I know. Now, take me to get ice cream. I want strawberry. And don't tell me I'm diabetic. Today I don't care. I laughed. It was a real laugh. The weight was gone. The silence was gone. I unlocked the brakes and pushed her down the path, the leaves crunching under my boots. We weren't rich. We didn't have a big house anymore. We were living in a small condo downtown. But we were safe. We were free. And for the first time in a long time, the future looked bright. We had won. Wow, what a journey. That ending with the purple heart. It really shows that loyalty is stronger than any betrayal. If this story touched your heart, or if you felt that anger burn when Dominic smiled, please consider gently hitting that like button. It helps these stories reach more people who need to hear about justice. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to join our family here at Betrayal Stories Lab. We have some epic thrillers coming up next. I have a question for you all. Do you think Morgan deserved forgiveness, or did she get off too easy with just 5 years? And honestly, what kind of stories do you want to hear next? Do you prefer these military revenge stories, or something more about family secrets and quiet justice? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one. Until next time, stay safe, watch your circle, and take care of your loved ones. I'll see you in the next epic story.